Hello, Joey here. Welcome to another recap of books I've read recently, starting with The Story of Britain by Roy Strong. Earlier this year, I read books on the history of Ireland and Japan, and now I've turned my sights on England. This was an ambitious book. It covers Britain's history from the Roman conquest, starting in 55 BC with the invasion of Julius Caesar, and goes all the way to the present, or close to the present, since it was published in 2019. Here's a bit of my ancestry that nobody asked for. I've always been a bit of an Anglophile, but I never thought I was English. In fact, in addition to being a little Norwegian, a lot Swedish, and mostly German, I've always been told I was Irish and Scottish, which made the English my enemy by default. Then I took a DNA test, and it was like my ancestors were colonized all over again. 44% English, and not a drop of Jerry blood. I'll admit, finding out that I wasn't German threw me for a loop, since I have a German last name, I studied German, I traveled to Germany, I've been told I look German, though I'm not sure if I should take that as a compliment or not. And then a year later, Ancestry comes back and says, "Nein, you are in fact 30% German and 36% English." Long story short, I'm a whole lot of white, in case that wasn't painfully obvious. Bear witness to me referencing for the first and likely last time the notes I took. I planned on stapling these packets to the back of the travel insert I had set up for England, but they got a bit chunky and won't fit. I did, however, copy down from the back of the book the list of kings and queens who ruled England since the Anglo-Saxon kings of the 10th century. I did not copy down the prime ministers, though, because I am a royalist at heart. As with the other history books I read, my interest waned after World War II, so I skimmed through to the end. But the writing was engaging enough, and I would definitely recommend it if you're interested in an overview of British history. I think it's a great place to start. You have no idea how excited I was to find this card in my ephemera. I wanted to write down each of the short story titles on it, and wouldn't you know it, it had 14 lines exactly. This third installment of the Hercule Poirot series is a collection of 14 stories published in 19-something or another. Do I remember any specifics of these stories? Not at all. But I did enjoy them, and the short form especially reminded me of Sherlock Holmes. I almost returned this particular edition because I didn't realize I had bought a sanitized version. There's a note at the beginning saying that the publisher had changed instances of racist language and depictions that they believed detracted from the text. Now, I get that some people would prefer it censored, and that's totally fine for them, but I would rather decide for myself if the offensive content diminishes the value of the book or not, especially when we're talking about a book that was written and published a century ago. There's a lot of historical context, and it would have been probably commonplace. That doesn't make it okay, but I also can understand that it was a different time. I also found it more distracting than anything because I kept wondering how it compared to the original. But I ended up keeping it because I wanted my covers to match. And isn't having a pretty bookshelf the most important thing? I have this horrible habit of buying books and letting them sit untouched for years, and The Martian by Andy Weir was one of those books. I'm not sure what made me hold off for so long, but I'm glad I finally got to it because it was fantastic. The story follows astronaut Mark Watney, whose crew, believing him dead, abandons him on Mars when a dust storm forces them to evacuate. Relying on his resourcefulness, Mark has to find a way to signal Earth that he's alive before his supplies run out. There are so many smart people out there doing amazing smart people things, and here I am struggling on the daily with stickers. It's incredible. Consider me trying to put together this journal spread. I forgot to hit record on my phone to get an up close of me writing. I started to write the word published when I'd already wrote the published date down after his name, and I also wrote down the wrong log number. It was supposed to be 61, not 16. Very frustrating. I like science fiction, but it isn't my favorite genre, especially when it gets too technical, but the author made the subject matter accessible enough that even I could follow along. I also enjoyed that it's, as far as I can tell, fairly realistic. Then again, I am not a scientist or an engineer, so this could be complete fantasy. I have no idea, but it seems plausible. I love that it wasn't set so far in the future that the characters are unrelatable. There's references to Sanford and Son, which I was binging at the time that I read this. And he was also reading Agatha Christie's series, which I'm also obviously reading. I will have to admit though that if I had little more to watch or listen to besides Three's Company and ABBA, I would have myself punctured a hole in my suit and let nature do its thing. Detective H.P. chose the wrong English village to retire in. Within 24 hours, a widow fatally overdoses, and the man she intended to marry, the wealthy Mr. Ackroyd, is murdered in his study. The suspects include his sister-in-law and her daughter, who chafe at the sparse allowance given them, the major, whose main vocation includes hunting big game in Africa, the stern but beautiful housekeeper, and the smarmy butler. But all the evidence points to the missing stepson, who stands to gain the most, and it's up to the good detective to clear his name.
Are you kidding me?
Taquitos. This is only book 4, but it's definitely my favorite so far, and that's including The Murder on the Orient Express, which I read years ago. One of the reasons I really enjoyed this was because we finally got a break from the dingbat Captain Hastings. It's told from the perspective of Dr. Shepard, and he actually employs his little gray cells. I also really enjoyed his sister's character. She somehow knows everything about everyone in the village, except who the murderer is. Even if you don't feel like reading the rest of the series, I would still recommend this. It's very entertaining, I breezed through it, and I loved all the twists. I had to break out my embossing tools for the last book. This was actually a really fun journal spread to do. I don't know how well it turned out, but I enjoyed myself, even though I screwed up a few times. Kill the Boy Band is about 4 fangirls who become friends through their shared passion for a British boy band called the Ruperts. While planning to attend their latest concert, the girls stay in the same hotel as the singers, and by chance end up kidnapping one of them. I mean, who hasn't had that fantasy now and again, okay? Things get a wee bit out of hand when the guy ends up dead. The friends turn on each other, secrets come out, and each of them has their own reason for wanting him dead. Back in elementary school, I liked the Backstreet Boys. My favorite was Nick Carter because it was the 90s and I had a thing for blondes. I would put up posters of them on my wall because it seemed like the thing to do, but I was never insane about them. I still don't understand how someone can be so obsessed with a person or a group of people that they don't know or will never meet. Not me though. I could never. I would give this man my kidney, and he is welcome to my other kidney. I'm getting too old for this though. I've been to 1 Stray Kids and 2 ATEEZ concerts, and I've come away with worse headaches than when I went to rock concerts. Like, is all the screaming necessary? And if I can't afford to get close enough to be sprayed with their sweat, then what's the point? I bought this book a very long time ago, probably when it was published in 2016. And since then, my interest in YA contemporary has sadly waned. I picked it up expecting to breeze through it and then probably donate it, but I was pleasantly surprised. It's freaking hilarious. I strongly recommend it. Unless you don't like dark humor, then don't read this.
Are you kidding?
Dare I say this may have even rekindled my love for contemporary young adult fiction? For sure, it's a contender for my favorite book of the year. Please let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books, and also if you belong to any fandoms, Korean or otherwise. Were you a Backstreet Boys fan or were you an NSYNC fan? And if you're too young to know who they are, get off my channel. I'm kidding. I hope you'll consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye! You're watching my video, so you must be mentally unwell. Come take a seat in your fantasy. As a wise starfish once said, hero worship is unhealthy. This is a hobby of mine. I like to read about dead people. I guess fun if you enjoy murder and burglary. Why is this so difficult? This is just basic English. I'm getting too old. I'll set you free from your sanity. Them boys made me lose my sanity a long time ago.